Hey ladies and gents, Fishbat here, and I thought I'd do a video about some of the things I've been working on in the hobby. So taking a departure from some of the battle reports that I've done, I've had a pretty good Christmas actually. I've gotten some Chaos Dwarfs under the tree, and that's what I've been working on since Christmas, and I started painting a few things before Christmas from an existing collection. So before Christmas I already had some lesser obsidian golems from Mantic. I had a few hero pieces from a few companies, but I'll show you what I got under the tree. So Santa was very nice to me indeed, and I've gotten some figures here, most of them from Russian Alternative, who make some fantastic little Chaos Dwarfs. I'm a big fan of the old-fashioned big hat style of Chaos Dwarf. I just really like that sort of cartoony, sort of evil style. It appeals to me for some reason. So yeah, asked a few folks to get some of these for Christmas, and they were there under the tree, which is wonderful. Also in the top right, we've got some of those Mantic Abyssal half-breeds, which I'm using as bull centaurs. They're not bad figures either. I'll talk about them a bit later. So onto what I have done so far. The Chaos Dwarfs worship an evil god named Hashut. He's one of the Chaos Gods, but he's a lot lesser known. If you're watching this, you're probably already familiar with Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Slaanesh, but in Warhammer Fantasy, Hashut is the Dark God of the Chaos Dwarfs. And he demands a lot of sacrifices. A lot of sacrifices, and the Chaos Dwarfs, being a slaver race, will often sacrifice their slaves to Hashut for his various dark blessings. So what I've done here is I had a fountain, as you can see on the left. That was something I got in the Reaper Bones Kickstarter. And I haven't done much green stuffing before, but I was pretty happy with how this turned out. There's the middle one there. It certainly looks like a bull to me. And then I've painted it up, done a few blood effects, and I like it. That's going to be a nice diorama piece. Of course, in Kings of War you can do all that nice multi-basing. So yeah, that'll be in the middle of one of those multi-bases, just as a bit of a decoration, something to really liven it up. These three fellows are some of the Forge World demon smiths. My wife got these for me a few years ago, and yeah, they'll be in charge of the war machines and great obsidian golems in the army. A few of the war machines. The two on the left are some of the Mantic Dwarf cannons. The one on the right, I just sort of made it out of bits. I'm not sure I'm happy with it. I'm not sure whether I'll use it or not. Some heroes. The guy on the left will be the Overmaster. He is an Avatars of War figure. Really nice little dwarf. Great fun to paint up. And his base is from, I think that's a Skibor base. How do you say that? Skibor? Skybor? That really, the company that does the really fine detailed stuff. And speaking of Skybor, they also did that dwarf on the right there, with a very detailed shield. And I've grabbed the flag from an Imperial Guard company commander box, I think. Just scraped off a little bit of the insignia and made that into a Chaos Dwarf standard. Here's some Mantic figures. These are lesser obsidian golems. I bought these myself probably early December. Got into them, and I had these guys painted up, I think, within 4 days of them arriving in the mail. So I'm pretty happy. The lava effects, I think, look okay. They don't have a lot of variety in their poses. Like 4 of them are that sort of left arm up, right arm out sort of pose, but I think they they don't look bad. I'm happy with them, and they're certainly large models. Those are on 50 by 50 mil bases, so they look pretty impressive, I think. And these are the first of those Russian alternative dwarves I've gotten my hands on. So this is the first time I've really gotten into the multi-basing aspect of Kings of War. Everything else I've done individual bases. So here I've got my my troop base for regular infantry, so it's 100 wide and 40 deep in millimeters. I've gotten 5 figures, and I think you can see like they're pretty broad, those Chaos Dwarfs. They seem to fill out the base quite nicely. And I can do some stuff that I usually wouldn't be able to with single bases. So I've got that large rock on the left there that one of them's standing on. I just like how it all sort of fits together. They're not just crammed in. Yeah, I like that. And that's what it all looks like so far. That's what my completed force looks like to date. You can probably also see right in the middle there, behind the Overmaster, there is a Bull Centaur champion that I've made. That's one of the Mantic Abyssal Half-Breed models, but I've given him one of the Russian alternative heads and a Russian alternative axe head as well. I've done his pose sort of rearing back so that he's really got a lot more height than the other Abyssal Half-Breeds, and I'm pretty happy with how it's come out. He looks pretty regal and in charge, rearing back like that. So that's the army to date, and I'm pretty happy with how it looks at the moment, but there's a bit more going on, so this is what's in progress. These are the Abyssal Half-Breeds, the Bull Centaurs. They're pretty good to work with. All of the axes, of course, not the axes, the hammers, because I've all got hammers. The hammers all come bent. It's that restic stuff. A lot of the bodies of them come in two halves, and you need to fit them together when you glue them. But a lot of them did not fit. However, restic's pretty easy to work with. Just put it in hot water and fit it together, put it in cold, and it's nice. So yeah, they've come out alright. The detail on them is a bit soft. Like there's definitely detail on that armor, but it's very sort of smooth, and the detail is not crisp, I'll say that. The detail on these miniatures is not crisp. But, you know, at the same time, they are cheap. They are very cheap. So, I think they're good gaming pieces. They're definitely a good sort of budget figure. And another friend for Christmas, he gave me one of the Avatars of War Chaos Lords. This is definitely a work in progress picture. I've got a lot to do on him, but this is how much he's been painted at the moment. I'm gonna try and get that sort of classic Warriors of Chaos look, with the black armor with the silver and gold trim. And I think I'm gonna make him an ally for my Chaos Dwarfs. So in the rules, he's a Varangur chieftain from Uncharted Empires. I thought, no, that'd be great, but to bring another hero, I need a regiment, of course. So I go out and I buy some Warriors of Chaos second hand. This was the first thing I could find, and it was a dozen of them for $20 Australian. And yeah, I've put them straight into the paint stripper. Need to get all of that old paint off. The guy who had them said he painted them when he was about 10, so it is not the highest quality of paint job. And to my astonishment, half of them looked like they had been actually glued with PVA, which I'd never seen that before. In case this, the green stuff, not green stuff, simple green is what I'm stripping them in. In case that doesn't work, I have ordered on eBay what's called an ultrasonic cleaner, which is just a little machine that, will make the liquid in it reverberate very quickly, and in theory, will strip off all of that paint in 3 minutes. So I'm waiting on that with bated breath, because that will make this whole process a lot easier, rather than waiting, several days for the simple green to do its magic. Now onto how I've been doing this, in case anyone thinks, that my army looks a bit of a riot and maybe they'd like to do it. I don't do anything fancy. The way I've been doing my basing is I get some PVA glue. I think in America they call it Elmer's glue. Just put down a splotch, mix in some sand, mix in some, what do they call this rock stuff? It's not basalt, ballast. Yeah, so some ballast, they call it. You go down to your local train shop, you get some of this ballast. It comes in a few grades, so I've got a mix of fine, medium, and coarse. And I find that's just a good basing material. You get quite a lot of it for a few bucks. And mix that with the sand, mix that with the PVA, and then spread that over the bases. And then once that's spread, I just sprinkle a little extra on top to make it a bit more coarse and interesting. And then of course I've got on the left there, that's a bit of cork. Cork is great for rocks. You go down to your hardware store and buy sheets of cork tile, and that'll be a ton of cork. Make a whole army with cork bases. Yeah, just a good cheap rock material, and it dry brushes up very well. And on the right there's just tufts of green grass. Yep, every hobbyist should have that. Just makes their bases look nicer. And then when I've put the base down, I'm just painting it with a mixture of Vallejo German Camo Medium Brown 826 and Army Painter's Fur Brown, and I dry brush some Deneb Stone on top to bring it up a little. For the reds on the Chaos Dwarfs, some Citadel paints, Corn Red up to Mephiston, then with a wash of Caribou Crimson, the Games Workshop Red Wash, and then I go back and put a little Mephiston Red on top for highlights. The gold, I base coat in Yellow Ochre, which is a Vallejo model color 913. It's a pretty good color. You can put it on thin and the yellow still comes up pretty nicely. So yeah, we'll put that on all the edges. It only takes about 2 coats until it's pretty nice and solid. Put the gold over top, and then I'll use the Seraphim Sepia from Citadel to wash it down. Make it look a bit more rich. And for the silver parts, I'm probably going for a bit of a grungier silver. So I'm using the model color 865, the oily steel. Then washed over with dark tone, and the edges of that just done with mithril silver. So all of that stuff, not complicated. It's a pretty basic thing, but just use a few of the basic techniques, and I think it comes looking all right at the end. Like it's a tabletop quality army. And yeah, that's where it is. If this gets a bit of interest, I'll keep posting things as I do it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and keep gaming. Bye.